Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Migrant Hope channel. My name is Charlene, and if this is your first time, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of things that you need to consider if you are retaking the regulation part of the CPA exam. Now, for those of you guys who do not know, I ended up failing REG the first time I took it, and I think primarily because honestly I really just don't like tax, or more so, I just think I did not really spend that much time in studying and really did not take all the little nuances into consideration. Now, if you're retaking REG, I'm going to cover the things that I think you should definitely do that would help you succeed the second time. When I took it the second time, I ended up having such a high grade, and it was higher than all my other CPA parts. So I recommend that for you. So let's jump into the video. Now, the first thing I would say is do not undermine business law. I know most of the exam is tax, right? It's like maybe 6 chapters or so of tax, and then you have about 2 or so of business law. I'm just talking off the top of my head. But of course, it's more tax versus business law. Do not underestimate business law, because business law, even though it's small, it ends up having a lot of questions, and you just never ever know what you can get on the exam. Now, I'm not allowed to disclose exactly what happened on my exam, but of course, just remember, do not underestimate business law, because it's definitely something that can actually make you fail if you actually don't study. Now, the second thing that you want to keep in mind is you do not need to know all the little weird tax deductions. I think when you're studying for REG, it's very easy to get caught up with all the numbers. They have the regular standard deductions, and then for like married, what's it called, separated, head of household, all that stuff. You don't need to know all like the little nuanced tax deductions. I think primarily it's important to just understand the main standard deductions, and then the other like little exemptions like the tax credit and all that other little stuff. Just the little things, you end up knowing them. When they start talking about like foreign tax and all that stuff, you definitely don't need to know all of that, because that's just too much information crowded in your head for no reason. I found it really hard to kind of cram all that information anyways. Now, the next thing that I really recommend for everybody is practice questions. Actually really would help. If you're retaking REG, it means you've kind of gone through the whole study pattern the first time, and sometimes, like for myself, I just really did not have enough time to really take as many practice questions. And I always say, whatever you miss in the lectures, whatever you miss when studying, you typically catch it when you are doing the practice questions. So do as many practice questions. I would recommend that you actually take longer than 2 weeks to do your review, which is typically recommended when you're studying for the test. So I highly recommend that you do as more questions honestly than the studying, because when you do more questions, you end up finding out what you didn't know, and and you'll be able to have a better idea of what to actually focus on. Now, this next point is something that I really recommend for everybody. Even though you may be good in one part and not necessarily strong in the other in terms of like in terms of tax or business law, I definitely recommend that sharpen your skills in the areas that you're good. When I was taking the exam, I knew business law was definitely a lot easier for me than tax. So when I was retaking it, I made sure that I spent a good amount of time just revising business law so that I knew it to my fingertips. Because what you don't want to happen is like say, oh, I knew this part, I knew this section during the first time when I studied for the test, and then the second time around you don't pay that much attention to it, and then you get more questions in that section, and then it just doesn't work out in your favor, and then you end up failing it the second time. I think after you fail the test once, nobody wants to go through it again. So for all the sections that you're good in, sharpen your skills, make sure you do more questions so that at least you definitely feel a lot prepared, and then you can divert the rest of your attention to your weaker areas. Now, I would also recommend that you read the textbook as much as possible. I know it's easy sometimes to watch the lectures and then you kind of go from there, but I really found that when I retook it, I read the textbook, whether it was for business law or for tax, and it really helped me. I used Becker the first time I studied for REG, and I didn't pass, and then the second time I ended up using Roger CPA. Oh my god, I used Roger CPA because I knew that he's phenomenal when it comes to tax. So I ended up buying like just the tax review course only for tax, and then I ended up taking that. Now, I'm just going to reiterate this. You need to really, really take as many practice questions. Don't rush through it, especially if tax is not your strong suit like myself. I knew that it was something that, I had to spend a little bit more time. The initial time when I took the test, I definitely did not spend that much time reviewing and, kind of going through everything. So I highly, highly, highly and strongly recommend that you actually take your time, review the questions properly, and then make sure that, you're timing yourself so that on the day of the test, you're not rushing to kind of get through anything and you've properly prepared for yourself. I hope you guys enjoyed these tips on retaking regulation of the CPA exam. These are things that I practically used myself when I was retaking it since I had failed the first time. I hope that this video was helpful for you, and if you guys have any other suggestions or any other things that you want me to touch upon in regards to the CPA test or just in general, my information is always down below in the description box, or also leave a comment or say something, and of course I'm definitely 100% going to get back to you. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and I'll catch you guys in my next video next Wednesday. Bye.